Imagine you are standing in a swimming pool. You have a giant, colourful beach ball in your hands. Now imagine that this beach ball represents all the angry, sad, or scary feelings you have ever had. You don't want anyone to see them. You don't want to see them yourself. So you push that ball underwater. At first, it's easy. You just hold it down with one hand. You can still smile, wave at people, and carry on a conversation. But as time goes on, your arm gets tired. The ball wants to float up. It fights you. You have to use two hands now. You have to put your whole weight on it. Eventually, you are so focused on keeping that ball underwater that you can't do anything else. You can't swim. You can't play. You can't even leave the pool. And the moment your grip slips, that ball shoots up out of the water with 10 times the force, splashing everyone around you. This is the perfect picture of repressed emotions. It is the invisible wall people build around their feelings. It is a psychological trap that millions of people live in every single day, often without even knowing it. We need to talk about the person who never gets angry, the person who is always fine, the person who seems to glide through life with a numb, flat expression, or the person who is the life of the party until they suddenly vanish. We are going to explore why we bury our feelings, the massive cost of keeping them hidden, and what happens when that invisible wall finally starts to crack. To understand why someone represses their emotions, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to look at the blueprint. You see, nobody is born repressing their feelings. Look at a baby. When a baby is sad, they scream. When they are happy, they giggle. When they are mad, they turn red and thrash around. A baby is pure raw emotion. They don't hide anything. So where does the change happen? It usually starts in childhood. It begins with survival. Imagine a 6-year-old boy. He falls and scrapes his knee. It hurts, and he starts to cry, but his father looks down at him, annoyed, and says, "Stop crying. Big boys don't cry. Toughen up." Or imagine a little girl who is excited to show her mother a drawing. She runs into the room, beaming with joy, but her mother is stressed, tired, and maybe dealing with her own trauma. She snaps at the girl. "Not now. Can't you see I'm busy? Go to your room." In both of these moments, the child learns a lesson. But it's not the lesson the parent intended. The child doesn't know how to be tough or to be patient. The child learns that their emotions are dangerous. They learn that showing feelings leads to rejection, abandonment, or punishment. The child's brain, which is designed to keep them safe, makes a calculation. It says, "Okay, if I cry, dad gets mad. If I get too happy, mum pushes me away. To survive in this house, to be loved, I must stop feeling these things." This is where we have to make a very important distinction. There is a difference between suppression and repression. Suppression is when you feel angry, but you choose not to yell because you are in a library. You know you are angry, but you are controlling it. That is conscious. Repression is different. Repression is unconscious. It is your brain hitting the delete button on a feeling before you even realize you have it. It's not that you feel sad and hide it. It's that you genuinely don't realize you are sad. You have severed the connection. You have built a wall so thick that the signal can't get through. So the child grows up. They become an adult. And on the outside, they often look like the most put together people you know. They are the low maintenance friends. They are the employees who never complain. They are the partners who say, "Whatever you want is fine with me." They have become masters of the false self. This is a mask they wear to please the world. They learned long ago that being good meant being quiet and unemotional. So they perform. They act out the role of a human being, but they are operating on autopilot. But here is the problem with the human body. It keeps the score. You cannot destroy energy. You can only move it. When you push an emotion down, it doesn't vanish. It goes into the basement. It goes into your body. Let's look at the symptoms. How do you know if you or someone you love is repressing emotions? The first sign is a strange sense of numbness. It's not that they are sad, it's that they are flat. Imagine a radio. You can turn down the volume on the static, but if you turn down the volume, you also turn down the music. You cannot selectively numb emotions. If you numb your grief, you also numb your joy. If you numb your anger, you also numb your passion. People with repressed emotions often describe their lives as looking at the world through a grey fog. They might have a great job, a nice house, and a loving family, but they feel nothing. They feel like they are watching a movie of their life rather than actually living it. This is a tragedy because the cost of avoiding pain is losing the ability to feel alive. The second sign is what psychologists call leakage. Remember the beach ball? You can't hold it down forever. The pressure builds up. In real life, this looks like passive aggressiveness. Maybe you ask your partner if they are mad and they say, "I'm fine," but they slam the cupboard door. They make snide little comments. They forget to do things you ask them to do. They aren't doing this on purpose. Their subconscious mind is leaking out the anger they are trying so hard to hide. Another form of leakage is the explosion. This is the person who is calm for 5 years straight, never raising their voice. Then one day, someone spills coffee on their shirt and they completely lose their mind. They scream, they throw things, they have a meltdown that seems totally out of proportion to the spilt coffee. But it's not about the coffee. It's about 5 years of swallowed anger, 5 years of unsaid words, 5 years of holding the beach ball underwater. The coffee was just the moment their grip slipped. Then there is the physical toll. This is perhaps the most dangerous part. When the mind refuses to weep, the body weeps for it. There is a massive amount of research linking repressed emotions to physical illness. We are talking about chronic fatigue. Why? Because holding down that beach ball takes energy. It is exhausting to be someone you are not. Your brain is burning calories just trying to keep the firewall up. People with repressed emotions are often tired all the time, no matter how much they sleep. It shows up as back pain, jaw tension, stomach issues, and headaches. We use phrases like this all the time without realizing it. We say, he's a pain in the neck, or I can't stomach this situation. We are speaking the truth. The tension of holding back words tightens the jaw. The anxiety of hiding feelings churns the stomach. The body is screaming because the mouth is shut. Let's go deeper into the mind of someone living this way. What is the internal narrative? Usually it is driven by shame. Deep down, the person believes that their true self is unlovable. They believe that if people saw their shadow, the parts of them that are angry, needy, or scared, everyone would leave. This creates a lonely existence. You can be surrounded by friends, but if those friends only know your mask, you still feel alone. You feel like a fraud. You think, if they knew who I really was, they wouldn't like me. So you keep the wall up, you keep performing. This often leads to a crisis. The strategy of repression works great for a while. It works great in your 20s when you are building a career and need to focus. But usually around midlife, the bill comes due. The wall starts to crack. Maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's a burnout at work, maybe it's just a vague sense of existential dread that won't go away. The coping mechanism that saved you as a child begins to destroy you as an adult. The good child realizes that being good didn't make them happy. It just made them compliant. They realize they have spent their whole life living someone else's script. So what happens next? How does someone dismantle the wall? It is not easy and it is not fast. You cannot just take a sledgehammer to the wall, or the flood of emotions might drown you. You have to take it down brick by brick. The journey of healing from repression is about reconnecting the wires. It's about teaching the brain that it is safe to feel. It starts with awareness. It starts with noticing the numbness. It starts with paying attention to the body. When you feel a tightness in your chest, instead of ignoring it or taking a pill or scrolling on your phone to distract yourself, you stop. You ask, what is this? You don't have to fix it. You just have to acknowledge it. I am feeling tightness. I am feeling heat. Then you try to name it. There is a powerful psychological phrase, name it to tame it. When you put a word to a feeling, you move it from the chaotic, emotional part of your brain to the logical, processing part of your brain. You take away its power to scare you. I am feeling anxious. I am feeling sad. I am feeling angry. For someone who has repressed emotions for decades, this is incredibly hard. They might look at a list of emotions and not know which one fits. They might just say, I feel bad. That's okay. It's a start. The next step is understanding that emotions are data. They are information. They are not commands. Just because you feel angry doesn't mean you have to punch someone. Anger is just a signal. It's a light on the dashboard telling you that a boundary has been crossed. Sadness is a signal that you have lost something important. Fear is a signal that you need to prepare for something. When you repress the emotion, you miss the signal. You keep driving the car with the check engine light on until the engine explodes. When you listen to the emotion, you can use the data to make better decisions. This process often involves what psychologists call shadow work. It's about looking at the parts of yourself you are ashamed of and welcoming them back to the table. It's about talking to that inner child, the 6-year-old who was told not to cry, and telling them, it's okay now, you can cry. I'm here, I'm not going to leave you. It sounds simple, but it is profound. It is reparenting yourself. It is giving yourself the permission you never got when you were small. As you start to let the feelings in, something amazing happens. Yes, the pain comes back. You might cry for days. You might feel waves of anger you didn't know were there. But the color also comes back into the world. The grey fog lifts. You start to laugh more deeply. You start to feel music in your chest again. You start to connect with people on a real level, not just a superficial one. You realize that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's the only bridge to true connection. There is a fascinating concept called the return of the repressed. It basically means that whatever you run from will eventually catch you. You can run for 10 years, 20 years, but it will catch you. But when you turn around and face it, when you stop running, the monster usually shrinks. You realize the monster wasn't a monster at all. It was just a hurt part of you asking for attention. Let's talk about relationships for a moment, because this is where repression causes the most damage. If you are in a relationship with someone who represses their emotions, it can feel like trying to hug a statue. You can't get in. You ask, "What's wrong?" And they say, "Nothing." But you feel the coldness, you feel the distance. It can make you feel crazy. You might start provoking them just to get a reaction, just to see if there is a human being in there. If you are the one repressing, you might feel like your partner is too emotional or dramatic. You look at their tears and think, why can't they just be logical like me? But deep down, you might be envious. You might wish you could let go like that. Healing a relationship where repression is present requires immense safety. The person with the wall needs to know that if they drop a brick, they won't be attacked. They need to know that their anger won't destroy the relationship. They need to test the waters. They might express a tiny bit of annoyance. If the partner reacts well and says, "I understand why you're annoyed," that is a victory. That is a new neural pathway forming. The brain says, "Hey, I showed a feeling and I didn't die. Maybe I can show a little more next time." It is a slow process of thawing out. Now I want to address the fear. The biggest fear people have is that if they start feeling, they will never stop. They think, if I start crying about my childhood, I will cry for the rest of my life. I will fall into a pit and never climb out. This is a valid fear, but it is incorrect. Emotions are like waves. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. They rise, they crest, and they break. If you let the wave wash over you, it passes. It is only when you build a dam that the water builds up and becomes dangerous. When you allow yourself to process an emotion, it actually leaves your body. It releases. The tension in your shoulders drops. The knot in your stomach unties. You feel lighter. There is a freedom in this that is hard to describe until you feel it. It is the freedom of being whole. It is the freedom of not having to hide. It is the freedom of putting down the beach ball and just swimming. Think about the energy you would save. Think about what you could build with that energy if you weren't using it to hold up a wall. You could write a book. You could build a business. You could love your family with a fierce present intensity. The path away from repression is the path toward authenticity. It is about taking off the mask. And yes, some people might not like the new you. Some people liked the compliant, quiet version of you. When you start setting boundaries, when you start saying no, when you start saying I am angry, some people will be uncomfortable. They might even leave. And that is painful, but it is also necessary because the people who leave were only in love with your mask. They weren't in love with you. By letting them go, you make space for people who can love the real, messy, emotional, beautiful human being you actually are. Let's go back to that image of the child, the one who learned to hide. If you could go back in time and stand next to that child, what would you do? You wouldn't tell them to hush. You wouldn't tell them to be a big boy or a good girl. You would probably just hold them. You would let them cry until they were done. You would validate their reality. You can't go back in time, but you can do that for yourself right now. You can be the parent you needed. Today, try to notice one feeling, just one. Maybe it's irritation at a red light. Maybe it's a flash of sadness when you hear a song. Don't push it away. Don't judge it. Just say, I see you. That is the first crack in the wall, and that is where the light gets in. We live in a society that often encourages repression. We are told to keep calm and carry on. We are told that productivity is more important than humanity, but we are not robots. We are biological creatures designed to feel. Our emotions are our compass. They tell us who we are and what we want. Without them, we are lost. So if you have been holding your breath for years, waiting for permission to exhale, this is it. Let it out. The world will not end. In fact, your world might just be beginning. It takes courage to feel. It is the bravest thing you can do. It is easy to be numb. It is easy to be cold. It is hard to be open. It is hard to be soft. But soft is strong. Soft is alive. Don't let your life pass you by from behind a glass wall. Break the glass. Feel the air. Feel the pain. Feel the joy. Because feeling is what makes us human, and you deserve to be fully human. If you recognize yourself in this description, know that you are not broken. You are just protecting yourself with an outdated strategy. You are a person holding a beach ball underwater, and you are tired. It is okay to let it go. The journey from repression to expression is the journey home. It is a journey worth taking. Think about the relationships in your life right now. Are you showing up as your full self or a curated version? Think about the last time you really cried, not just teared up, but really let go. If you can't remember, that's a sign. As you go about your week, pay attention to the silence. Pay attention to what you don't say. Pay attention to the moments you swallow your truth. Each time you notice it, you gain a little bit of power back. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to explode. Just open the valve a tiny bit. Let a little bit of the pressure out. You might be surprised at how much lighter you feel. You might be surprised at how much more colorful the world looks, because the cost of bearing your emotions is too high. The price is your life, and your life is too valuable to spend in the dark. Take a breath, a deep one, and let yourself feel whatever is there. It's safe. You're safe. And you are ready to put the ball down.